Chicago Bulls have now officially been linked to Domantas Sabonis. We're going to talk a little bit about that and what could be the positives and or negatives for trading for Domantas Sabonis. Trey Murphy continues to be a name that's linked around the Chicago Bulls as well. We're going to look at both of those and the Chicago Bulls defensive slide and why that struggle is one that just can't be ignored. We're going to talk about it all and more right after this. What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host there, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content today, y'all. I want to talk about the Bulls being linked once again to Domantas Sabonis. This one comes from Jake Weinbach, who says this: Domantas Sabonis is the name to monitor for the Bulls on the trade market. If the Kings are open to offers, Chicago can construct an enticing package that includes multiple assets. It's also worth noting that Sabonis and Bulls EVP Artūras Karnišovas each have Lithuanian roots. Now, what are some of the benefits of this? What are some of the negatives of this? Like, with every trade possibility that pops up, there are both things that can help your team, hurt your team, or just not change much at all, right? And while the Bulls do have tons of assets, I've talked a lot about it. $90 million in expiring contracts, a $17 million trade exception, another $2.9 million trade exception, so almost $20 million in trade exceptions. They have all their first-round picks. This is the most asset-rich that the Bulls have ever been, really probably in my life, to be 100% honest with you. And so because of that, of course, the Bulls are naturally going to be in some trade speculation. Of course, with the Bulls slide starting as well, right? After starting off the season a hot 5-0, 6-1 overall, and just how it's been up and down since then, it's going to also add to some rumor mill for the Chicago Bulls. So let's talk about the benefits of trading for Domantas Sabonis. One, he is one of the best defensive rebounders in the game of basketball as a whole. Just defensive rebounding wise, he's averaging 8.9 defensive rebounds per game as it stands right now. Last year, he averaged 14 rebounds. 10 of those were defensive rebounds. Domantas Sabonis is a great rebounder. And one of the things that he does bring that this team does lack is the defensive rebounding aspect of this that can help avoid teams with second chance points. You talked yesterday how many second chance points teams get against the Chicago Bulls. Our best defensive rebounder right now is Josh Giddey, and he's averaging 8.3. 8.3 as a guard. Nikola Vucevic averaged 7.4 defensive rebounds per game as a center, and he's averaging less rebounds overall than Domantas Sabonis. As a matter of fact, Domantas Sabonis, just defensive rebounding wise, is only averaging 1.5 rebounds less than Vuce is averaging with both offense and defensive rebounds, right? And so Vuce is a career 7.9 defensive rebounds per game guy. Domantas Sabonis for his career is 8.0 defensive rebound guy, but like I said, he's put together two of the last seasons. He's averaged over 10 defensive rebounds. This year, it's right at 9. So, that's been an uptick for him. So that right there does add an aspect that helps keep other teams off the glass, helps take away second chance points. There you go there. He's also a consistent double-double threat. He's going to lead the league in double-doubles. And, that's something that, Vuce has been close with as well. So there's a very similar aspect to that, is that Domantas Sabonis, 17 and 12 so far on this season. Last year he was 19 and 14. So he's a legit double-double guy. He's coming off basically 6 straight years of averaging basically 19 points per game as well, with about 12 or 13 rebounds in each of those seasons. Also he's 29 years old, so younger than Nikola Vucevic, which is really good. And Sabonis is a really good passer. I would say that Sabonis is kind of an underrated passer, right? He's averaged, 6 assists per game last year, 8 assists the year before that. So far this year, he's only averaging 3.7 assists per game, but I think that's more because of the state of the Kings more so than he's dropped off. So you'd add another ball handler there as well, which could help with Coby White and other guards playing off ball, right? So he could come in and he could replace just about everything that Vuce brings, but he's younger and he's a better defensive rebounder, a more consistent scorer as well. But that leads us to the negatives, right? While Sabonis would bring a lot of strength to the Chicago Bulls, and what he does well, he's honestly one of the best in the NBA doing. The downside for Sabonis, though, is the $40 million contract, which is double what Vooch is getting paid. And he's a few years, 6 years, I think, younger, 6 or 7 years younger. And he helps nothing at all on the defensive side of the ball. He's not a defender. And despite his defensive rebounding numbers, which are really good, on-ball defense is not good. He averages less than a half a block per game for his career. For what it's worth, Vooch at least averages a block per game for his career. So you're getting even less technical rim protection than that, right? And so I think the common thought would be for most Bulls fans, if we're going to change the center position, is that we want a different style of center, meaning that we want that defensive-minded center that can come in here, that can block some shots, that can rim run, all those type of things. And that do we need as much of the mid-range shooting from our center in this new style that we're going to? And, the Bulls do need spacing, so there's that part of it, right? But there's just the $40 million contract, paying double what you're paying for Vooch right now to get a younger version of it that's better, but slightly, right? Now, Vooch this season is in a tailspin, right? 16 points per game, 9.6 rebounds, and 49% shooting after the season started off so strongly. So you're getting more production than what you're getting, from Domantas, from Vooch. You're getting more production from Sabonis than Vooch. But it's just, if you're going to make a trade, and especially if you're going to pay that much, I think you can get Walker Kessler for cheaper. And then you may even be able to keep Vooch and Walker Kessler if Vooch is willing to accept a bench role. If not, you still have Jalen Smith there, right? So it's just, it's one of those things that I look at, and I get why people look at Sabonis, because Sabonis, again, this is no knock on Sabonis. Sabonis as a player is good, but what is he bringing that the Chicago Bulls actually need is the question that you also have to ask on this one. Or are you just doubling down further on offense, which we've seen teams do before? You just double down on offense, and then you think at that point, well, our defense isn't going to be great, but we feel like offensively we're going to be good enough to get where we need to be. Despite some limitations defensively, which we'll talk about the Bulls defense here in the next segment after we talk about Trey Murphy. So that's what really it comes down to with the Sabonis potential there. And the Sabonis acquisition is just the fact that, for me, Sabonis doesn't change as much stylistically as we need change for this Bulls team from the center position. And again, no knock on a good player. And I know some people are going to say, well, Haize, just put the talent out there, get the talent and figure it out later. And there have been teams that do that. I'm not knocking, right? I'm just saying, for me personally, if we're going to make such a big splash at center and pay that much, I want that center to bring the aspects that we are missing from the team, not really kind of bringing something we already have just to a lesser extent, if that makes sense. But, flipping Nikola Vucevic, who is expiring, who's 35 years old, again, 6 years older than Domantas Sabonis, flipping him for that could be, enough benefit for some people. And I can't knock them if they feel that way. It's not the type of move. It's not the move the type of center that I want here if Josh Giddey and Coby White are going to be your backcourt. Now, if the Bulls kind of know, hey, we may be moving off of Coby this offseason, then maybe that changes some things. Maybe that changes some things in that. I don't get that feel from the Bulls. I think Kobe's coming back here, but maybe that, right? And then maybe you look at a more of a 3-and-D or two-way player at that shooting guard position next to Josh Giddey, and then that kind of changes what you need at your center position. Again, I'm not advocating for trading Coby White. I'm just kind of talking about it from all aspects and perspectives here. And so that's something you may have to think about. But let me know what you guys think on the Domantas Sabonis front. Do you think that this could be a good acquisition for the Chicago Bulls? Is this somebody that they should be looking into at the trade deadline? At minimum, you get younger, right? You get a younger player in there who still, and every time I say that, it starts feeling like when we traded for Vooch, right? Like, we traded for Vooch, he was still under 30, I believe. He was 29 years old, or maybe he had just turned 30 when we traded for Nikola Vucevic, and you were adding him to a younger team, right? Like, but then we ended up getting older. We're bringing in DeMar DeRozan in that following offseason and things like that. Like, I just don't, maybe it's my PTSD, and I can admit that. Maybe it's my own PTSD comparing it too much to the Vooch situation. He has 2 more years left on his contract after this at $45 and $48 million. But let me know what you guys think on the Sabonis rumor there and the potential of the Bulls acquiring Domantas Sabonis. But we're going to move into that to somebody that, if this rumor is true, I'm all in on the Bulls trading for. So the Bulls have also been linked to Trey Murphy III, which we have talked about before. This one comes from Jack Simone of Pimpin' Ain't Easy, who says this. A trade package built around P. Will, Zach Collins, and draft capital. Trading for Trey Murphy would probably mean one of Coby or Ayo are gone either in the offseason or in this trade, which he is saying that this trade would be built around P. Will and or Zach Collins and draft capital. Said the Pelicans have been one of the worst teams in the league. They've been sitting at the bottom of the Western Conference for the entire year, unable to gain any traction. Monday night they took down the Bulls, who were one of the hottest teams in the league, beginning, and whether that's about the Pelicans. And so he says this, adding a guy like Trey Murphy could help give them a new life, especially if they pair him alongside Josh Giddey, Domantas Sabonis, and Coby White, who just returned to the lineup. Here's the thing. Right? If you are getting Trey Murphy for either P. Will, Zach Collins, and draft capital, I'm all in for it. If you mean to tell me you can add Trey Murphy to this team while keeping Josh Giddey, Domantas Sabonis, Coby White, Ayo Dosunmu, you then can plug Trey Murphy in at that 3. He's a much better, two-way player than Isaac Okoro is. If you add Trey Murphy to the starting 5 that we already have, taking away Isaac Okoro, I am telling you this right now, that is a team that will instantly turn things around for this Bulls team. I really do think so. You're adding another 20-point-per-game scorer. Now, the question then becomes about how many opportunities are you taking away from Domantas Sabonis on the offensive side of the ball. But I tell you what, maybe this is me getting caught up for the forest for the trees. Trey Murphy can play off ball. He's a really good three-point shooter. He's shown all these things. He isn't ball dominant. Adding a scorer has always been about how ball dominant are they. Trey Murphy III is a player that does not have to be ball dominant. He can play off ball. Of course, you're going to want to give him the ball some and see him go to work, but he is a player that has learned in his time here, and it was time with the Pelicans, to play off ball. So again, could that mean that the Bulls can make if the Pelicans are in a place where they are looking to, not have to pay players up there, go younger, all those type of things? There's still that question on if Trey Murphy is really going to be available. But if he is, and that's the deal that you can get him for, this is a 20-point-per-game guy, 6.3 rebounds, 46% shooting overall from the field. He's shooting the ball 37% from 3 as well, and he's a solid defender. I mean, I don't know about y'all, but that almost sounds too good to be true. That's why it's probably not going to happen. But I'm starting to feel more and more like Trey Murphy III may actually be the perfect acquisition for the Chicago Bulls. Again, does nothing for a center position. The Bulls will still have to figure out their center position. Maybe that would mean that rather than pay a free agent, you're more so looking to draft a defensive center or trade for one that's on, a reasonable deal. I don't know, right? But I love the concept of adding Trey Murphy and his two-way play to what we're seeing from Coby White and Josh Giddey. And then you still have Ayo Dosunmu coming off the bench. I don't know about y'all, man, but that is the type of acquisition that I would look at. And just to highlight how good Trey Murphy III is defensively, when he is on the court, teams are averaging almost 9 points less per 100 possessions. The player that he guards shoot the ball almost 6.5% worse when he's guarding them one-on-one. Trey Murphy is a legit two-way player in the sense that he can get you 20. He can also get you a bunch of stops, right? That's what Trey Murphy could potentially bring, and that's why it's like it sounds too good to be true. He's averaging almost 2 steals per game as well. And to get him for P. Will, Zach Collins and draft compensation, now that would probably mean you're talking about multiple first-round picks, right? And that's the question that you would have to ask here. Is giving up the Portland pick and maybe this year's first-round pick enough for Trey Murphy? And here's what I'll say. Are you going to get a player as good as Trey Murphy with either one of those picks? Even if you were to combine those picks, right? Do you get a player that's as good as Trey Murphy? Now, I know the people are going to respond like, but Haize, we can tank and we can get a top 4 pick, and they probably will be better than Trey Murphy. I understand that too, but I think that this is a team that's already signaled that they are trying to do it now. Now, the no skipping steps, but Trey Murphy is a player that to me doesn't equate to skipping a step. He's 25 years old. He fits your timeline. The money isn't terrible either. Like, I'm just looking at this and I'm like, what's the downside for this? If the only downside is giving up draft capital for a player that's 25 and that fits your system now, I don't know if that's really a knock, to be 100% honest with you. Like, that's something that I look at and I say, and he's locked. The thing that I love about this too is that he's locked in into the end of the 28-29 season, and he does get paid $31 million by the end of that. But that's not a completely unreasonable contract, not for the production that he's given. It's a really good value contract as well. Listen, I'm all in on the Trey Murphy acquisition. If the Bulls are truly, looking at that and that's truly an option on the table, I'm all in on Trey Murphy becoming a member of the Chicago Bulls. But I would love to hear from you guys on this one. Do you think that the Trey Murphy rumors, if true, right? Let's just put this, if true, is this the type of acquisition that you would like to see the Chicago Bulls make here at the trade deadline? Let me know what you guys think on that down below. I think that would be a perfect move personally. That's just me. You talking about a wide open Eastern Conference as well. man, a starting five of Josh Giddey, Coby White, Trey Murphy III, Modest Buzelis. You still got Vooch there, but then you got Jalen Smith on your bench, Trey Jones on your bench. You may have to give up Kevin Huerter, but then you still got Isaac. Man, Ayo still on the bench too. Man, I love that move. But let me know what you guys think down below. But with that said, I talked a lot about the defense, and the defense has been something that I've talked a lot about recently, right? And the slide that the Bulls have been on defensively has been legitimate. The Bulls, when they started off on their 5-0 start, right? They were ranked the sixth best defense in the league with a defensive rating of 110, right? And that was really good. And the Bulls were playing this good two-way basketball that things were really, really, working for the Bulls with and stuff like that, right? Teams were converting 31% on their threes over the Bulls' first 5 games and stuff like that. And now the Bulls have started to really slide defensively, and the slide has been bad. Over the last 10 games, the Chicago Bulls are 3-7 in those last 10. They're 25th ranked in defensive rating at 120.9. They've allowed 130 points per game over this time as well, and that's only second to the Utah Jazz, who've been averaging allowing more points per game. And is that really the category you want to be in, is with the Utah Jazz, right? The Bulls are also sending their opposing teams to the free throw line 28 times per game, right? The Washington Wizards and the Indiana Pacers are the only teams allowing more free throw attempts. When you look at it, the Bulls are at the bottom of the league defensively, and it's by a large margin, and it's super concerning, right? And that's something, the points in the paint, the second chance points, right? This poor defense for the Chicago Bulls has led them to just being bad, and part of the reason is, of course, defensive boards. The Bulls are allowing 20.2 second chance points per game. That's bad. That's bad, and a lot of that comes down to the defensive rebounding aspect of that also. So, when you look at the Bulls' defense, we never were meant to be a great defensive team, right? When you look at, the players that we have that are probably the best, like, on-ball defenders that are consistently in the rotation, Ayo, P. Will, Isaac Okoro, Trey Jones. That's really it, right? With Dalen Terry and Julian Phillips being solid at times, but their roles are really inconsistent. Of course, we're going to get Zach Collins back, and hopefully that's going to be a shot in the arm as well for the Bulls defense. But this is a team that doesn't have a lot of above average defenders. We just don't have it. So however we play defensively is going to have to come down to being in what we do and staying connected as a team. And that's one of the things that's fallen off quite considerably over this stretch for the Bulls, is that we are not playing as connected as a team at all, which is shooting us in the foot, holding us back. And then now defensively, no matter how good the Bulls offense has been, the Bulls offense hasn't been great either here recently, but no matter how good the Bulls offense is, when your defense has that many holes in it like Swiss cheese, it's hard to really do anything else, right? So the thing that I really would hope the Bulls focus on over this long break is to rediscover team defense. It has to be about giving effort on every single play. We are not good enough defensively to take any plays off, and that's what this Bulls team really has to understand and get to, and realize if you're not playing connected defensively, you're not communicating, if you're not giving 100% effort on every defensive possession, yeah, it may hurt you a little bit on the offensive side of the game, but you have to be sound defensively. You have to be sound defensively, and that's what I'm looking at. Wes Unseld, we heard that the defense was turned over to him last year. I don't know if it's been the same this year, but whoever, Billy, Wes, Dan Craig, John Bryant, get this fucking defense together. You got to get it together, because if you don't, it's going to be ugly. So let's hope that the Bulls can stop that defensive slide. That is one of the most important things for the Bulls to figure out, is stop the defensive slide. But let me know what you guys think on that down below. We got one voicemail to get into, man. He didn't leave his name, but this one is from the 540.
What up, Haize? How you doing, boss? Couple things. Is Modest struggling from physicality? I know the other day I had asked you if you think he's better suited for the small forward or the power forward. You said it didn't really matter in today's NBA. And while I agree with you, I think Modest struggling with physicality, the better position for him is to be farther away from the basket, but we need to develop Noah Senge. And everyone who says it's time to trade Coby, I think they're a little crazy. I think Coby's a vital piece. I don't think he's like Zach LaVine at all. I do think he needs to cut down on his turnovers, because that game last night, and he was just throwing the ball all over the place. But let me know what you think. Have a good one.
Modest struggling with physicality, yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. Like, when teams get more physical with him, he is struggling a little bit with that. But I think that is part of excuse me, I'm sorry. that is part of the growing pains. That is part of the evolution. That is part of what needs to happen with this team. So, Modest is going to have to go through this. Now, I know you say move him to the small forward, and I get that. I think there's still plenty of physical small forwards, but in the switching league, he's still going to have to deal with the physicality one way or another. And like I said then when you asked, and it was a great question, is that I do worry about moving him further away from the basket and how that affects his rim protection, which he's the best rim protector that we have on the Chicago Bulls, right? So now long-term, he may very well be a small forward as we develop Noah Essengate, but we know Noah is not going to be in the lineup this year consistently, right? So that could be what eventually, and Noah's a fine shot blocker as well. So then, you're gaining some of those things, but I guess we shall see, right? As far as trading Coby, you guys know I'm all against trading Coby. I think the people that compare Coby White to Zach Collins are just people who aren't really smart basketball-wise, and they make these broad strokes of comparisons to type of players. Hell, people were comparing him to Ben Gordon, and he's definitely not that, right? So we'll see. Coby's put up some solid numbers. I think the last game he fell too much in love with the three, and we got to see how that's going to continue to develop for Coby White, man. But overall, great voicemail. Thank you for leaving that. That's our time for today, guys. You guys have been amazing, man. Let me know your thoughts. Are you in or out on a potential Sabonis trade? Does Trey Murphy change enough of the Bulls' future and present where you'd be in for that trade? And how worried are you about the Bulls' defensive slide and how much this defense is falling apart? Drop your thoughts and comments down below. Leave a voicemail for the next episode as well. Make sure you guys are subscribed. Hit that like button as well. You can follow us at Bull Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns. BullCentralPod@gmail.com. And lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We're the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, but that is thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See you right if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.